Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Mokanaman at YouTube with another end of year review. 2019 has not been the kindest year on me or the content. However, we still carried on and finished a whopping 18 models, undertaking the salt mine injection moulding project before that got stuck, and reached the milestone of 10 years on YouTube, getting some sizable momentum view subscriber wise, mostly from previous airbrushing content created. This will prompt in the new year in the creation of more tutorials and stuff of that realm, as well as more complex and difficult builds. At the start of 2019, I was in a very difficult place, work, personal wise, in which direction I was going to go before full time was offered. During this patch, I experimented quite heavily with SLA 3D printing and building fairly quick projects such as tanks and printed objects that were experimented upon straight from the Spark Maker. You'll see at least 4 or 5 70-second armor bits that are a regular staple on this channel for many years, improving on the finer aspects of airbrushing small bodies and weathering. Followed by this spider tank, which was quite a pain to build. A few were bought, not sure if I will finish them sometime in the future, but absolutely visually spectacular. These were far more difficult to finish, and a few still remain half done. Followed by one of the very few attempts at Gunpla, finishing from last year the Marina Zaku, especially the jetting in or out of water diorama effect and all the water wave airbrushing. It's probably one of the most quality builds of the year. A couple of high grades have been started, but no progress thus far. Next, the final filament plastic print figure of G-Man from Half-Life. This was a very quick sand and paint commission for a client. The 72nd Hertzer was the second print coming out of the Spark Maker, pushing the technology more and getting a greater understanding by replicating a 72nd tank in one single piece and repainting it to suit the rest of my collection. It's interesting to find any model of a tank and scaling it to the right size that fits my needs, rather than buying a boxed kit and finding out the grammage of the material, solid or hollow, is a fraction of what you do pay for when you're buying a model. The detail is not overly great. They're very good and quick for deployment in wargaming or a mass diorama, and it came out quite nice with minimal amount of work. The cost analysis assured that SLA resin printing is the way to go for me, and not so much filament printing. Number 3, and ongoing with the experiments for both salt mines as well as the channel, and a slayer of content in maintenance, operating machine and more complex prints. The Christian Sonichu was finished and painted to get a broader understanding of complex and character figures. A few minor mistakes were made and it broke at a couple of points. None of this was overly noticeable, but got a greater understanding of the technology. From March, I fell into full-time work and mostly focused on that, as well as mold making for injection molding. A couple of kits were dribbling through. Content really slowed down with a ton of 3D printing videos being made at that stage, not so much models. Finished this KV2 and spent way too much time, which did net a nice weathered finish and a standard of tanks that I'd like to continue once more time is definitely achieved, but no further models would be created till June. I was extremely frustrated. The last few models besides the tank were not quite up to standard or scratch. They were experimental, just a basic tank. The Sonitude G-Man didn't pop very well, and it definitely left in a bit of a slump, a bit of depression. I met up with my friend Tristan, who started a group about Ma.K, and these awesome capsule kits that were so quick and easy to build rolled out. This sparked my imagination, where I was able to build these elaborate dioramas from the Gashapon ball, and even further modify and manipulate the little robots into their own story. This managed to kick off a spark to do a bit more, but my hobby would be on and off, staggering, until near the end of the year. This German half-track is a weird Eastern European make in a billion pieces that I started at the start of the year. Limped it over and painted it at the same time as the KV2 and finished it at this state. These two near-nude girls were made for a variety of reasons and stretched over a couple of videos. First, scaling figures from the Spark Maker to suit various subject matter in diorama format. Being Maschenkrieger inspired, these were done to 1/20th to stand with the robots when I start building those. Another thing about the kit development, the girl on the left is digitally sculpted in a web application called ZBrush. The one on the right is a 3D scanned real woman. These were painted in under a period of 2 hours, experimenting with a wireless airbrush and compressor at work, as there was no time and I did not stay at home, being in between moving locations. Token vintage build of the year. I've have a few of these in the salt mines. This was the worst box conditioned. Had a blast building, painting and basing for the pure intent to display at Anamanga and show that I do occasionally work on builds to the local community. August, September, I hit a brick wall with 3D printing, having trouble locating decent resin that would work in the printer, and sourcing a locally manufactured one, which turned out not to be a very good product, and shooting out all sorts of wasteful and garbage results. At the same time, Lincoln from Paint on Plastic group was running a Maschenkrieger competition and allowed me to use a mix of scratch building, part finding and 3D printing to do my own design robot. Going back to the ideas of scaling figures, I did a Japanese schoolgirl on a base behind a barrier that I drew and built up a Ma.K robot utilizing old Gunpla parts, 3D printed Warhammer and other mech components scaled to fit the body and the scale, with an old man bust head inside to convey a story, holding a lunchbox that was also drawn in CAD story, rounding all of this up and many foreign pieces into a single body. I reckon this is probably where the future of the hobby is heading to, and love the multimedia possibility of design, downloading online and utilizing old media, injection molded plastic parts and full kits. Bandai small scale Star Wars Star Destroyer, built and painted it in one day, a quick easy flip and content to release in the new year. Nothing remarkable, awesome kit, a lot of fun. This was the breaking point with the bad resin I was utilizing and decided to give up completely. I also mastered Mesh Mixer, hollowing the kits and getting the perfect support structures in finishing models. I was meant to abandon this Star Wars probe droid. However, the length of documenting where the resin was going wrong, how it was cracking up, secreting liquids, and trying to remove the imperfections, finished the project and got a mediocre finish. However, the journey of finishing it and sharing what went through to achieve this and the massive mistakes I made with the printer as well as the resin use at the time would probably be very helpful for those once the video is patched together. Decided to paint it and keep it as a reminder on the downside and the more frustrating aspects of this medium. It's easy when you got a supply of resin, but things go wrong when you get a few minor adjustment problems. Another KV2 in 72nd, this time made by the Chinese manufacturer 4D. Very, very affordable. This is their new generation of small scale tanks. A lot of issues, not ideal in build or proportions, but due to the sheer price and availability, awesome for getting people as an introduction to the hobby and especially children. Can't promote or sell these enough. The finish is okay. The Titan version of the higher grade Super Femina kit. It's a Gentai P Bandai model, very expensive. Sold to me already built, which I had to pull apart, clean up, reassemble and paint. Interesting to cover the different experience on working on someone else's model rather than my own. Documented the whole process and thought it would be worthwhile sharing. I normally avoid this because I like to show the runners and the box art for a review, but it could be a different video making experience, as well as eventually I'm going to have a collection of all the Fuminas. Same story with the Super Star Destroyer. Might make more of them down the track. Again, very easy content. That was finished up on the morning of the 30th of December, just to finish everything off in a nice round way for the year and a bit of a moral pick-me-up. Moral builds after a hard time, a few failed projects, is not a shameful thing or a bad thing whatsoever, especially if you do share things out and contribute to self-promotion. But once figuring out the development and what I've learnt in some of the road stops, looking at the overall collage of all the work and reflecting, even though it's a lower number, I'm fairly optimistic and pleased where everything is going, and with all the projects lined up and pursuing at a very steady pace to the timetable put out in the last vlog, I'm very optimistic once I'm able to achieve more time to continue all of these ambitions and projects. That all aside, I do want to thank a lot of you. Thank you very much for your support, your encouragement, interacting, and the continued consumption of my content. It is very reassuring, and I definitely do enjoy interacting with a lot of you, and very glad that the build videos are entertaining and the tutorials are informative and helpful. It's generally everything I want to achieve. And wishing you guys a happy new year. Hope you reflect on your builds, and it was a good year in that, and that next year will be absolutely pleasant for the hobby. Catch you guys next time.